Boy, can I help you?
Listen up. I'm bringing you the best content to ever exist in the door-to-door industry, from sales, leadership, recruiting, and personal development.
Well, why would I need that?
Because never before have we been able to collaborate with the top experts in their industries, sharing their secrets and techniques on what makes them the best.
Wait, who are you?
I'm your host, Sam Taggart, creator of the D2D Experts and D2D Con. Is there a place we can sit down?
Well, come on in.
Register today for D2D Con, January 10th through 12th. Learn from over 40 amazing speakers, including the real Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. Come as a team, learn as a team, leave as a tribe.
All right, welcome everybody to the D2D podcast. I'm Sam Taggart, your host, and I'm here with a very special guest, Craig Manning. Thanks, man. And he is one of the new speakers at D2D Con next January, and he's a performance psychology and he's a he does mental performance, right?
Yep.
So, what does that even mean? Before I kind of give you more, I'm curious, define that real quick.
Well, there's really three levels of psychology. There's the mental illness, therapist, counselor, Freud stuff. That's mental illness. Then there's positive psychology, which is trying to help people to be healthier and happier, which is more the life coach type of approach. And then what I do, though, is performance psychology. So helping people actually create skills, mental toughness skills, so they can learn their physical skills faster, and we can change the patterns, mind mapping, and take their performance to higher levels. So developing people and getting them to perform.
And that's an important, one of probably the most important things to learn in our business, because it's kind of like if you don't hunt and you don't perform and you don't sell, you don't make money, and you're fish out of water. So it's like one of the biggest issues and challenges I think leaders and owners and reps deal with is just like, man, I wish we were performing at a higher level.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to dive into some of the strategies and things in science that you've learned, because you've been a professor at BYU for how long now?
Yeah, about 20 years. We need to talk about the hunting thing when we have time, because that is so true. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can talk on that.
Yeah, because that's massive. Because when you're on the hunt, you're mentally engaged. You're always focused on what to do. When you're not, the wrong mindset is you're always worried about this out to in mindset, and those are the two binary mindsets. Are you focused on what to do, or are you focused on what not to do? That's really the core. Yeah.
Cool. And then you're author of The Fearless Mind, which I've read maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it's funny because I picked it up the other day, and I was, I saw all my underlining and my notes, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to go interview this guy. So they can get the book on thefearlessmind.com, right? Yep. It's a phenomenal book talking on how to improve your own mentality, how to be a higher performer, and we'll talk on that for a minute.
Yeah.
But also you can check out, you have some courses and stuff like that, and videos and trainings.
So I've got the book, The Fearless Mind, and on the website, thefearlessmind.com, there's an abbreviated version of the course I teach at the university, and there's also weekly coaching on there as well. So
that's cool that we actually could access that, because you've coached not only like professional athletes or BYU athletes to phenomenal Olympians. I mean, and we're going to talk on that. So I guess, tell me, who've been some of the your favorite people you've worked with, or teams?
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of my time lately, as we were talking. I started doing a lot of one-on-ones, and it evolved to doing teams to have a bigger effect on the team, because culture is massive, to where I spend a lot of my time these days coaching coaches. And to me, a coach is a manager, it's a parent, it's a teacher. I've spent time coaching in the NBA, Jason Kidd, some of these sorts of names. So I spend time coaching them on the psychological side of performance, and they take that information and adapt it to the X's and O's of what they do. And so he's just one of many coaches I've been able to work with, both kind of at that level, which is fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. What have you done with the Olympics? I know that was a piece that you've spent time with.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there. I was with Aerialist at first, working with Matt Christensen, who's now at Red Bull. He's one of the directors of high performance at Red Bull, but worked with him for Vancouver, and we did really well. And so then they asked me to be over snowboarding and freestyle. So worked with Mike Janikowski there. He was awesome. Both Matt and Mike were awesome. What we did with both those coaches is create this shield around the athletes so that they could really focus on what they were doing, get their mind in the right place, but get everyone so that they could, when it was time at the Olympics, they could actually focus on what their core competency was and not get all this other interference.
Which is so interesting. I watched an interview with Shaun White.
Yeah.
And he talked a lot about that, like putting in his headphones and his routine and just like
being
in the zone.
Yeah.
And so I hope to dive into the science. I really
created.
I want to dive in because it's a science. It's a mathematical equation.
It's hard science. Yes,
it's
everyone thinks it's when people say the soft skills. I hate that. It's not the soft skills. These are tangible, hard, real skills. Yeah, I want to go through that when we get to that.
Yeah, and DDDCon, you're going to at least blow our minds, right? I mean, that's what I'm excited. So this podcast is like, if you're, want to know who Craig is, we're going to dive into some of that science. But obviously, to learn more, go to get your book and to, go to your website. And then at DDDCon, we're going to have some sweet stuff there too. So
that'd be great.
Well, let's dive into this. And I want to talk on, I guess, real quick, some of the most craziest, like what would be some of the craziest shifts that you've seen from guys going from low to high? Like,
huge. Okay, love that. When I first started working with the Olympic team, Matt Christensen brought me in over aerialists. Aerialists are the guys that come down the hill, go off the jump, 60 feet in the air and land it.
They were dropped on their heads as a kid.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like, why do you do that?
Funny story, because Matt was connected with Red Bull, and they all got ADD. They all got ADHD, these guys.
Yeah. Same as sales guys.
Right.
There's a common characteristic there.
The mind's spinning so fast. And Matt does too. And he walks up one day and he comes out and he's got 2 cases of Red Bull on either shoulder and he dumps it down in the snow. He's like, guys, there's the Red Bull. I'm thinking, I need to confiscate that from you guys. You're already wired as it is.
I'm actually getting 5 Hour Energy, Red Bull, or Monster to come sponsor DDDCon.
I love it.
Because I swear they're addicted.
Yeah, but anyway, so the first guy he wanted me to work with was a guy that he was 26 years of age. He was struggling. It was in October, and that's right when they're about to leave. So I didn't want to mess him up. I've just barely been introduced to him. I'm still pretty young at the time. And so I gave him a journal, so the tool I use a lot. So I gave him a journal and gave him my email address and phone number, told him to reach out to me if you need me. Because I didn't want to start saying, hey, do this, do this. He goes out on the World Cup tour and he starts sending me these massive long emails, like massive emails, all on what not to do. There was nothing on what to do. You see the wrong mindset there. The mind is binary. You're either focusing on what to do or what not to do. Carol Dweck, a Stanford professor that wrote the book Mindset, says we either have a growth mindset or a fixed, or either a learner or a non-learner.
I read that book.
Can you see that? And so he was focusing on what not to do. And he did terrible. Finishes. I'm sending him emails back saying, okay, this is great detail, but what do you need to do? He ends up finishing 49 out of 50 competitors on the World Cup tour. Quits, goes back to Colorado and is done. They end up flying him out there. I meet with him, convince him to come back, and I spent 9 months just remapping his mind. So everything of what not to do back to what to do. It was a long story, but getting him using the journal, I'd met with him every week for an hour, reprogramming his mind. Next year on the World Cup tour, he won three World Cups and a World Championship, number one in the world. So he went from 49 out of 50 competitors, there was only 50 allowed on the tour, to number one in the world in 1 year. And I already knew the power of the mind because of what was happening with my own tennis program, but that was dramatic. That was from basically last.
That was like last, almost like just getting cut, basically quitting.
Yeah. And we track everything, so we measured how much they sleep, their quad strength, everything. And that was the only variable that we changed was the mindset.
Yeah, it's not like he was faster. It's not like he was necessarily...
Same tricks even. Working and doing the same tricks as the year before. You don't change your tricks 2 years out from the Olympics. You're just trying to get the muscle memory. Nothing was changed. The only thing we changed was the mindset.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I tell people this in sales. I'm like, people are like, I'm saying what you're saying, Sam. I'm like, yeah, you are. Like you are. You're reading. Yeah, you're literally watching my video. You read my script.
Yeah.
Yet you get terrible results, and they're like, it's broken. You can't do what you do. I'm like, no, it's my mind.
You gotta say it the right way. Yeah.
I'm like, it's my mind is in a different spot.
That's right.
So, is there any other crazy stories that you're like, man, any interesting story through your coaching and working with athletes? I know that you worked with a basketball player that we all probably know that.
Yeah, there's so many, and I honestly, some of the stories I'll hold back because if you don't really believe, if you don't have self-belief, you won't believe it. Like the stuff I've seen, I'm so passionate about the power of the mind because of the stuff I've seen.
It's because you worked with the Cavs a few years back,
Yeah,
right?
I worked with the Cavs.
Is this the year that they went?
They won the championship.
But I'm talking like they won 3-1 or something, 3-0?
Yeah, so this is what happened. They had the biggest payroll in the NBA, but they weren't gelling as a team. And this is not secret. Everyone knew they weren't playing.
Yeah.
LeBron's back, and they came into town to play Utah early, and I think late January or early February. And they called me and asked me to come up and do a training and to work with one of the guys, a couple of the guys. This one guy was averaging 12.2 points a game, 12.2 and 12.7 and 7.2. 12.7 points a game, 7.2 rebounds a game. 3 sessions later, and as we were talking earlier, I like to do it every other week. So I gave them mental skills and wanted him to work on the skills, and it takes a couple of weeks. So 3 sessions, 6 weeks, he averaged 23.7 and 12.2 for the rest of the season. That's an increase of 10 points and 5 rebounds. This is at the NBA level. That's an increase. How much money are you going to get paid to do that? Not just increase, just alone.
Yeah.
And so we end up being the hottest team. We got the culture working together. Everyone's playing together. We were the hottest team in the league. We go in, we sweep the Pistons, we swept the Hawks. We got a little bit of fat egos against the Raptors, which is sometimes good for me because then they're more teachable. Got them back in the right mindset. We finish out the Raptors. We go in to play the Warriors, and they're calling me up saying, yeah, our goal is to shut down Steph and Clay. I'm like, no. That's the wrong goal. We're in the wrong mindset. That's what reactive.
There you go.
You focus on what not to do instead of what to do. Yeah. And so we end up going down 3-1. They're like, no, we're going to do this. If we don't shut them down, they go for 120. And so we end up shutting down Steph and Clay and lost by 30. Because you see, when you're focusing on somebody else, if I'm trying to shut you down,
it's very defensive.
It is. And what's happening to me using my strengths?
Yeah, I need to go score 40 points in this game. Yeah.
See, if I'm focusing on you, what happens to my own performance?
I'm just worried about so much about you.
Yeah, has to go down. So anyway, long story, there's a lot of details, but I end up talking backwards and forwards from the contact there, and it got heated. One of the calls got heated. He swore at me twice. And finally I said to him, look, what you're saying to the greatest player in the world is you're not good enough to win executing your own skills. And he went deathly silent.
Wow.
And I finally said, it's like playing chess. When you play chess and you're always trying to stop your opponent, you're always moving behind, what's always going to happen?
You're just
always
running.
Going to lose,
right?
You're
always going to lose.
And I said, stop talking about the Warriors. He's like, what do you want us to do? I said, call a meeting, tell them, stop talking about the Warriors. They need to be the team that must not be named. Focus on your strengths. Get everyone to go around the room what your strengths are and talk about what your strengths are. And then be proactive, which is instead of reactive, be proactive. Those are the 3 things. Stop worrying about your opponent, so focus on what you're doing first. Second, build around your strengths. Third, be proactive. We end up coming back, winning the NBA. By the way, next game, it was something like 141 to 140. Because he threw that thing out to me again. If we don't shut them down, they're going to score 120. I said, so what? Score 121.
Yeah.
The next game, they beat him 141 to like
That's
140.
Such a high-scoring game.
Kyrie and Bron both went for 40 that game.
Insane.
It was unreal. Then the next game was like 126 to 125. Then the next game was when Steph threw his mouthpiece, and he's so good mentally. And I've always been a fan of the Warriors culture, but when he threw his mouthpiece, I'm like, we got a chance.
He's broken. He's snapping.
Yeah, he's snapping. Then last game...
Yeah, he never gets... he just always has smiles.
He has a great mindset. Very, very mentally tough. But then that last game, we just executed to our strengths. And LeBron on the floor, Doris, ESPN reporter, grabbed him when he's still on the floor and said, LeBron, what did you do different? He said, we changed our mindset.
Doesn't that just make you feel like $100? I mean, just like that is so cool. It's like the check should have been a much bigger check on this.
And the thing is, most people don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
For sure.
They don't know what we're talking about.
And he's never going to be like, well, this guy and this guy and this guy, and he told me to say this.
No one. See, that's a lot of the work. It's behind the scenes. No one really knows what's going on. And there's no way I'm saying they won the championship because of me. I'm just saying mindset is that important.
But I think that's such an important principle. Is because so many people look at them holding a trophy, but they forget the mental journey that they had to go through to get there.
Yep.
It's like the combination of work ethic and the right mindset behind that work ethic.
Yes. It's absolutely, you got to have the skills.
Yeah.
And you got to keep developing the skills. But if your mind's locked, you're not using the skills you already have.
Well, it's like take Tiger Woods.
Right.
Like,
Great.
I mean, it's like pinnacle, boom, to nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow, like, it's not like he got unskilled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
he didn't break
all
his
sorts
body.
of interference. He's got all these skills, and I like to say all this interference was like covering up those skills and locking his skills. And to unlock those skills, he's got to work on these mental skills to get the most out of them.
So let's talk mental skills. Let's talk what are the tangible scientific things that we can...
Okay, great. I
Yes,
love
like,
this.
yeah, it's like,
this.
okay,
Yeah.
I am a leader and I want to unlock this dude's potential. Here's some skills, go.
This is when you talked about the hard science at the leading.
Yes.
Here is the hard neuroscience. This
Yes.
is cutting edge neuroscience. Neurons that fire together wire together. Okay? Neurons that fire together to wire together. So when a neuron fires, it sends a message, and in myotopia wraps around the synapse, making a connection. This is the science behind patterns. It's creating a pattern. So how that neuron firing is your self-talk. So if you talk to yourself in a subtractive way, not negative, we always use the word negative, subtractive, meaning focusing on what not to do. Subtractive is always taking away.
Because we always interpret, like, I'm still being optimistic. I'm talking, hey, we could still win if we shut down Clay and those guys.
Right.
Versus,
so you can see what's going
that's
on.
subtractive, it's not negative.
You think about the word subtractive. Subtract means what?
You're talking about the black versus the white. Yeah, you're talking...
Right. So if you're telling yourself what not to do, what has to happen to your performance?
What won't happen. Yeah, what not to do.
Yeah. So the neuron, if you tell yourself what not to do, your neurons are firing and creating a pattern of thought. And the more you do it, that pattern gets in the subconscious.
Okay.
Now what happens to your performance? Goes down.
It goes down.
So what the science is saying, science says neurons that fire together wire together. In other words, whatever we think about the most is who we will become. And science says whatever we think about the most creates a physical connection. So is this soft science or is this hard science?
This is hard science.
It's creating real physical neurological pathway.
Do you ever... And I don't want to take you on too big of a tangent, but are you like in the labs and like checking people's like...
There's people that do the biofeedback, and I've done biofeedback, which is great, but I'm more in how do you create the new patterns.
Okay.
And so that's really the key. Is it's not about it's not about getting rid of the old patterns, because once they're there long term.
Oh, so it's hard to... you can't just like delete them.
You can't delete them. You just want to stop reinforcing them.
So it's almost like that muscle shut down, and you created a new muscle.
Yes.
And it's like, I just know I use this muscle. This muscle is just dead.
Yep.
It's just a dormant.
Stop pulling weeds, because if you pull weeds, the seeds fall and land in the soil and grow back worse.
Yeah.
So every time you pull weeds, you're spreading the weeds. Instead, water the grass and fertilize the grass so the roots grow deeper and richer, and it'll squeeze the weeds out.
Love that.
So the opposite, obviously, instead of subtractive, is additive. So what I'm saying is, instead of being reactive, be proactive. And so when you're telling yourself what to do, that neuron is firing what to do.
Where I think naturally we're wired to be reactive or be subtractive.
Okay, so I think we've become natural because we've constantly told ourselves what not to do.
That's what I'm saying.
And we're coached by it, not because we have bad parents, but because no one knew this. This science is cutting edge.
Well, I think, have you read the book The Ego is the Enemy?
Yeah.
It talks about that.
Exactly.
It literally is talking, or not ego, the devil, or Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil. I knew where you're going.
Outwitting the Devil.
Yep.
And he talks about this whole...
Okay, can we go there?
Yes.
So in that 4th chapter, Napoleon Hill's interviewing the devil.
Yes.
I love this. You got to...
Fair
You got to... I love it. And he's saying the devil wants to be called your majesty, right?
Yes.
And he says, well, tell me, your majesty, how do you do this? He says, it's quite simple. I just occupy the empty space in people's minds.
That's what I was going at.
And the occupying the space is the subtractive thoughts. If you let subtractive thoughts in, you're letting the devil into your mind.
Yes.
The opposite is proactive.
The proactive, it's filling the space.
What to do, yes.
I'm being proactive about filling that empty space.
Okay, yes, and as you do that, now you're creating real physical connections of what to do, and they're getting in the subconscious. So what will happen to your performance? What will you do? So I'm changing people at the core. That's why, guys, coaching is so big. That's why coaching is so important.
It's so
because
funny
we impact everyone we come in contact with. So now from the time where you have kids now, what do you want to be telling your kids from the beginning? Don't touch the hot plate? No, you tell them, keep your hands down. Instead of saying to your kids, don't do this, tell them, you need to do this.
Yes.
And there's the beginning.
It's simply, wow, my whole parenting shifted just barely. Like,
yeah. Can you see the change?
I want to catch my language. Like, I think I'm going to be a lot more present around what language I'm using with. Because I don't want to be the devil. Like, you know, it talks about the parents, the religious leaders, the teachers.
Right.
You know, it's like those are the people that entrap us in this whole what the devil wants, because they're telling us the subtractive thought.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to the skills. The first one is self-talk. So we need our self-talk to be proactive. But then you said the next thing, as you brought this up, he wants to occupy empty space. So now if we go to confidence, which we know we wanted to talk about, see, we'll go in detail when we're ready. But when we're passive, okay, with ourselves, you may be telling yourself what to do, meaning you may be additive, but if you're too soft and you talk to yourself super quiet, what's happening to occupying the space?
It's soft, it's weak.
And so what does the devil do?
He's like, I can beat that.
Yep, and he comes in and fills in the space. That's why true confidence is being assertive. When you're assertive with yourself, your tone is strong. And what's occupying the space?
That.
You are. And that is why confidence, that is why that has been found to be the number one most critical psychological characteristic influencing human performance. It is bar none the most important.
So I'm recruiting a candidate to work with me.
Okay.
How do I test his confidence?
So can we talk about what it is?
Let's talk about, go that. Because I was like, man, I could talk for 5 hours on this. I'm like, question. So keep
it's
going.
complex because most people talk about confidence, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's why this is performance psychology. You got to know how to do it. Passiveness is not confidence. I put passive down the bottom. Passiveness is a I think you're great mentality.
Yeah.
That's a lose-win. Okay? I'm putting myself down. And when I'm doing that, I'm not owning the space. And I even have science here that's cutting-edge neuroscience that says the highest level of human performance is deliberate self-talk. Not positive, deliberate. Meaning whose thoughts should it be?
My thoughts.
Aren't your thoughts.
It's owning your identity and saying, I am speaking to this.
When you're being passive, though, what's happening to owning your identity?
It's just you're succumbing to everybody
else's.
else's.
You're giving it away to everyone
you're
else.
giving it to everybody. You're saying, I empower all you and I don't own me.
Yep. So that's worst case scenario.
Okay.
Then you got the other end of the spectrum is arrogance. See, most people throw arrogance, aggression.
And in your book, in Fearless Mind, it talked about arrogance versus confidence. Yes. And I always had this debate because I'm like, if you're effing LeBron James, how does he not be arrogant?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I am not that great.
It's a good example because arrogant people are born on third base, meaning they're born better looking than the average person, or they're born into wealth, or they're born with they go through puberty earlier and are bigger and stronger, or they're born into, they do well academically earlier. And so they've had success early with no effort. And so when others start working hard and start to pass them up at like age 13, 14, how are you maintaining your confidence when you don't put effort in? Because see, you're not a learner, you're a non-learner. So what happens? Well, you have to tear people down to make yourself feel better. So arrogant people are always, you suck. You're terrible at this. You're terrible. It's personal, and they're always undercutting you. See, arrogance is always putting people beneath you. Can you see that?
Yes.
So is that a lose or a win for them?
It's a win-lose.
That's a lose for them because they're not getting better, and it's a lose for
they're
everyone
not progressing
else.
At all.
Yes.
They're just trying to stay here and stop everybody else from doing this.
So can you see that's a lose-lose?
Yes, that's a lose-lose.
And that's why arrogant people are dangerous on your team. Because not only do they not perform, what do they do to
bring
everyone
other people
around
else
them?
down.
You don't want arrogant. You got to try and change it fast. I live by a 3-strike rule. I try to help them and turn it around. But if they don't become learners, meaning growth,
they're in fixed mindset.
I hate saying this, but you got to cut them loose.
Even if they're pretty talented, it's like naturally you could be so gifted, but you keep just maintaining.
Can you see why Bill Belichick with the Patriots? Can you see why the San Antonio Spurs with Popovic? Guys that are great, but they'll let them go. Why do they let them go? Because they're killing the culture of the team.
That is so crazy.
You see that?
And that's what makes them such amazing coaches.
Yep. So that's why. So two ends of the spectrum. Both. Again, if we go through this, passive is a lose-win. A lose for me, win for others. Arrogance is a lose for me, a lose for others. So both of those don't perform. And let's go down one. So then aggression. See, most people don't understand the difference. Aggression is, I'm better than you. So if you're here, I'm putting myself above you. I'm not undercutting you. I'm putting myself above. I'm better than you. So you said, what happens with aggressive people? Do they perform? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Can they focus? Heck yeah.
It's all dependent, though, on who's next to them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, as long as they have somebody that they can then be performing just a notch above,
then they think they're good.
Then they think they're good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So they're all subject to their environment.
Right. So if we play tennis and you're really, really, really bad at tennis and I beat you, what does that make me good or just really, really bad?
Exactly.
I may not be good. I'm just better than you.
And that's, yes.
And here's the other problem. When we're always trying to beat somebody, we always will perform to their level. So that's why in seeing athletics,
I think I'm a very, what do you call aggressive? Or aggressive person. Like now thinking through this, I'm like, I wouldn't call myself arrogant, but I actually think I am pretty aggressive.
Can you see aggressive people perform. They get it done. So what's happened to passive and arrogance? By the time you're saying the NBA, in the NFL, what's happened to passive and arrogance? They're not there because they're not getting better. So which is the two most predominant? Well, aggression and assertiveness we'll go to in a minute. But which is the most predominant?
Probably aggressive.
Aggressive is. So the more high performing you get, how much aggressive people do you have coming around you?
And so it's super hard to play team when you're all aggressors.
And so what happens to a lot of people is they start becoming passive because it wears them out.
Yeah.
And they stop competing. They stop competing with themselves.
Because they're like, he's a bigger bull in the room. I'm still a big bull, but I'm just done fighting.
And then they withdraw.
Oh, wow.
So
I think I literally can pinpoint times in my life where I've done that or I've watched others on my team do that.
Yep. When they're not the best, they withdraw.
Yeah.
No one's truly, we all oscillate in these different mindsets.
Yeah.
We all predominantly stay in one, but we all oscillate. No one is truly just passive because their resentment's building up and then they'll lash out and be aggressive.
I've watched that was my wife, dude.
Really?
No joke. Like our first 2 years of marriage, very like succumb, and now she found her voice, and it was like, wow, you just went bitch mode on me. Like, holy cow! And now she's backing down to like,
that's great.
It's crazy. It's like we just had this thing yesterday with the counseling lady, and it was like we kind of came to this realization, and she like it hurt her, and I was like, that makes sense.
Okay, here's the no one calls a divorce. Who does the passive person marry?
The
aggressive because
aggressive
they want somebody to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Because passive people are always waiting.
Yep.
Lose, win. They're always waiting for somebody to ask them out, waiting for somebody to tell them what to do, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
Aggressive people want who? Well, they
People
want somebody
follow.
to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And so what happens? Passive and aggressive people marry each other. But as a passive person starts to find their voice, like you said, or become assertive, they want more control.
Yep.
But often an aggressive person doesn't want to relinquish control.
100%.
Divorce.
That's our marriage.
Right.
That's so funny that I'm seeing it in so many different ways, but I've never studied it I've never had it explained this way because I think it's an interesting mindset. So is there a middle?
Absolutely. Assertiveness, let's go to the best one.
Yeah.
See, again, because...
So assertiveness is the best one.
Assertiveness is the best because, again, passiveness is a lose-win. Arrogance is a lose-lose. Aggression is I'm better than you. All of those are rooted in the comparison with others. So you're competing with somebody else always. Assertiveness is I'm good. I'm good, you're good. Assertiveness is a win-win. So the thing that people don't understand when you're assertive, though, when you're assertive first with yourself. And when you're assertive with yourself, you compete, but you compete with yourself. So now you're not threatened by aggressive people. You're not threatened by arrogance. You can probably get annoyed with passive people, and you're just out there trying to make it work. And you see, when we're passive, the focus is always this out to in, like I mentioned. When we're passive, it's always about on me, what I'm not getting, what are people thinking of me. It's always about me. When I'm aggressive, I'm trying to be better than you. So again, it's always about me being better than you.
Yeah.
When you're assertive, it's not about me, it's about the task. And I love seeing how good I can execute the task. I love the challenge every time I go door to door to see how well I handle the people, to see how well I can sell. I love the challenge of trying to hit these goals. I'm not threatened by any of these things anymore. Instead, I'm just alive and I'm passionate about seeing how good I can handle things.
I love that.
So when there's challenges, when there's adversity, what does it do to you? Nothing. There's no fear.
Yeah, you're just zoned. You're in the
zone.
When you said earlier,
problems.
you're like they put a shield around their people and caged them into assertiveness, essentially.
And you're not threatened by people. I wrote this actually. I was driving up to our cabin in Idaho because I was doing this coaching session a lot, and I got my 11-year-old just to type it. Here's what thoughts that popped in my mind. I said, when we're passive Passiveness, we're not in control of our thoughts. So what it leads to is this hyperactivity to where we overthink things and we overanalyze. And when we're passive, we dramatize everything. We overcomplicate everything. And we're like, should I go to this door? Should I go to that door? Should I do this? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. Why is this not working? And we're overanalyzing everything. And it creates this hyperactive mind, and that's where ADD and ADHD comes from, because we live in the digital age and we're talking 100 miles an hour and we're spinning out of control. So what happens to our anxiety?
It goes up.
This is literally what happened to me about a month ago now. I walk out of my house and I'm like, should I take the truck or should I take the Subi today? Maybe I'll take the truck. No, maybe I'll take the Subi. It's more fun. No, the truck, the old truck, because they were doing all this construction. I was like, Craig, take the truck. As soon as I said that, no more mental resources deployed to the decision. I just turned and walked to the truck.
It wasn't this
no more discussion.
Anxiety around,
nope.
Am I doing it right or wrong?
Yep.
It's just,
yep.
You made a decision.
I know I'm going crazy here, but one more.
I love it. No, keep going.
I had multiple speaking engagements. I was in 4 different states within a week. And I had this last one on a Friday at 4 o'clock in Park City. Probably the smallest of all of them. And I turned up there at 3:30 and I was just a little fatigued. And I sat there in a chair and I was just sitting here by myself without anyone before. I'm tired. I'm like, this is a little one. No, it's okay. No big deal. 100 people, it's not a big deal. And so I walked in there and I was just sitting there a little tired. And all of a sudden I started getting nervous. Well, I'm getting nervous because what mindset did I get into?
Passive.
And when you're passive, what occupies the space?
The devil.
The devil,
yeah,
fear. And I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm representing me. I need to do a good job. And I start talking to myself in my head. I don't want to kill my throat now, but in my head I was like, be assertive.
So you can yell to yourself in your head.
As long as it's words.
Yeah.
See, aggression is just, anger. Okay. There's no deliberate action. Do you see that?
Do this. Yeah, I could actually catch myself even just making loud noises in my head.
That's anger. Your anger, it's frustration. Yes. You're just mad. Whereas assertiveness, on the high end of assertiveness, it is deliberate.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, be assertive. I'm going to do this. I'm going to crush this. I'm going to do this. And so I'm telling myself in this really strong tone of what to do. And then they introduced me. I get up. It was by far the best performance I've ever done. It is by far the most fun I've ever had. And it's by far the most, I wasn't self-conscious or worried about me. And my ego was completely, I feel like, under control, because all I was doing was trying to deliver the best speaking engagement I could for the people in the audience. And it wasn't about me. It wasn't about any of that. It was just about me trying to do what I could for the people. I had so much fun.
That is awesome.
And I walk off stage, I'm like, I gotta get there every time. Because that was the most fearless I think I've ever been. It wasn't about me. It was about them and seeing what I could do. It was a win, total win-win.
Well, think, if before every door, before every meeting, before every demo I give, whatever it is, it's like if you entered with that
assertiveness,
what is the outcome?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a lot of people. It's so funny. I get so many people that are like, "Well, just nobody wanted to buy today." Like, what a passive thing to say!
Yeah.
I'm like, you just didn't make anything
that is a
happen.
Passive comment.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So if I knock that same neighborhood, talk to the same people, you're telling me,
with the right energy.
Yeah, with the right energy, you're telling me nobody would have bought. Well, you're just. I'm like, nope. There you go.
Assertive.
And it's. Yep. I think it's so interesting because it's what are we? How often do we need to be having those conversations of like, Craig, come on. Right. It's like, wait a minute, I'm representing me. Yeah. Like, I don't, and I think so often we get worn down to where it's like, not again. Like, I don't know.
That's when we're passive. That's when we're worn out. We're being passive with ourselves. Again, some of us are assertive with people, but we got to be assertive with ourselves.
Yes.
Sometimes we're too soft with ourselves. We're like, oh, woe is me, and all of this, and that's not humility. That's being self-deprecating and putting ourselves down. Other times we're too mad at ourselves. Assertiveness is in the middle. And so think about this too. If I'm passive, who can I sell to? Can I sell to assertive and aggressive people?
No, I'd never touch it. It'd just be passive to passive.
They don't. Yeah, the only person you can sell to is passive.
Yeah.
If you're aggressive, who can you sell to? Well, you can sell to passive, and you can sell to other aggressive. But if you're assertive, who can you sell to?
Every single one of them.
Everyone.
Because it's irrelevant. Right, it's irrelevant what they're yelling at you about. You're kind of like, okay, something's going on. Instead of like, I need to get angry back. And you know what I mean? The aggressor comes out of you.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah, if somebody's yelling at you, you stay assertive with yourself and you use humor or you use whatever to try and get the other person to meet them halfway.
I love it. Okay, so let's transition into confidence now.
Okay.
So, a lot of people in this job, they're like, man, I just wish I had more confidence, or I wish I could recruit more confident people. Like, what creates this confidence?
So confidence is, assertiveness is confidence.
Okay, so you just...
Assertiveness is confidence. So let's transition to how you build it though, like you were saying.
Yeah, how do you...
But here's the truth though. The second we're passive with ourselves, what happens to respect?
We lose our own self-respect.
We lose respect. What happens to respect from everyone else?
They
that's
just walk up. You become a doormat.
Right. When you're assertive with yourself, now what happens to your self-respect? Goes up. What happens with everyone else?
They want to be around you.
There's confidence.
Yes.
So how do we build it though? In all the years, I've been studying this, I've been mapping it out. I got so much research on human performance after the last 2 decades, so much. Still to this day, this is my favorite topic because confidence has been found to be number one as we talk about, but no one knows how to really build it. This is the slide. It's like my 8th lecture it's the second last lecture at the university. I save it towards the end. And here's the number one thing that builds confidence. Your previous performance accomplishments.
And that's in your book.
That's in the book.
Yeah.
Which, what does that mean? We're all taught you got to learn from others. You got to learn from others. What is the research really saying? You should learn from who first?
Yourself.
Always learn from yourself
and
first.
Applying it to sales, it's like Brian Tracy says, when's the easiest time to get a sale? Right after a sale. It kind of goes back to that.
You're building that confidence.
Yes.
See, confidence is built off something you've done. There's a big difference in belief. Belief is something you need the belief to do something you haven't done yet.
Yeah, you're aspiring. It's the faith of like, one day I could.
Right. So that's why this is why all of you guys out there are listening to this, and all the times I speak, why I always tell everybody, get a journal and write down the 3 things you did well.
Your 3-1.
Yep.
I implemented that.
Because it works. Because when you do that, what is the most precious resource? Confidence. That's our most precious human resource. And what's the number one way you build it? Your previous performance accomplishments.
So it doesn't necessarily be, let's say I haven't sold in a week, and so it's like, well, I'm still getting the sales. So technically...
Outcome. It doesn't say previous performance outcome. Performance, yes. Okay. It's the performance.
Because I want to distinguish the difference between
Right, yes, I'm glad you did. It's not my previous outcome accomplishments, it's my previous performance. So every opportunity there's a chance to do what?
Yeah, I worked all the hours today.
I worked hard, I did this well, I did this well, I did this well.
I smiled more today.
Like building confidence, yeah.
And the more you fill your mind with that,
yep,
then confidence will then be it.
And the other thing I love too, and I know I'm passionate about this, but the more you do this, the more you're building skills that are unique to you. So now you figure out your own journey and your own path, not somebody else's. And so I know these guys are taking your script and going out there, which is great, but they're learning from you. What they should first be doing is learning from themselves first. Yes. Now, number two is vicarious experiences, which is learning from others. But I think the order is critical, because if you're learning for somebody else first, I'm conforming to you. When I'm conforming to you, now I'm not being assertive at all. Now what mindset?
Passive.
Absolutely. And so I want to learn from myself first, then learn from others second. So I have my identity first, and I'm owning it myself first.
So it's funny.
Learn from others.
It's funny you say that, because I just trained a bunch of these owners, and part of the training that I did this weekend was, I said, training. It was all about recruiting and onboarding reps, and I said the biggest problem I think we have in training our new reps and new hires is we say, shadow me, and then come to my correlation and role play, and that's our training extent. I said it's more powerful to say, here's the stuff I need you to read. I want you to write it out. I want you to think through it, and then I want you to go do it. I want you to go do it, and then I want to analyze it together, and I want you to reflect.
Because they got to do the mental work.
They have to do the mental work.
They have to do the mental work.
Versus relying on my experience.
See, let's go back to right at the beginning with the neurons firing.
Yes.
If they're not doing the mental work, whose messages, whose talk is being fired? Not theirs, yours. And now they're conforming.
Yes.
And now when they wake up in the morning, what happens to motivation when it's not their thoughts?
It just is non-existent.
Yep.
It's like, well, that's not my thought. Yeah. Yes. So let me ask you this. I went for a week, haven't gotten a sale. As a leader or a trainer, how do I still help them see the wins so that they don't lose confidence? Because I think a big problem in our industry is a guy starts, doesn't make any money, quits, but it's like, dang, he really had a lot of potential, just didn't give it enough chance.
Yeah, you got to.
I think his confidence went like this.
Love it. I think you got to start at the beginning with not the goal of closes, but the goal of, I need you to get this particular skill down. I need you to get this skill down. And then, so at the end, because that's something that's performance. That's something he has control over. As he's getting the skills down, he's building confidence because he's getting the skills down. Then the closes will just come. Once they start to close, then you switch the objective, from skills to the closes as they build that confidence.
Because I think so early on we put the objective as closes,
it's too fast.
And then they feel this anxiety of like, well, I'm not doing that, so I lose my confidence. I'm maybe not cut out for this, and then they beat themselves up.
And I would even say, even as I'm saying this, it's critical to always have expectations around skills, always. Even as you bring in the outcome goals,
it's still like the outcome's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I actually train on that a lot, because if the outcome is what all you're rewarding, and it's just that, it's kind of like you're only limiting what's the aggressors.
Yeah.
You think about it, it's kind of like, what is outcome?
Yeah.
It's, if we focused only on the skills, like a wooden principle almost, it's like the very fundamentals, the outcome just comes as a byproduct.
When you focus too much on outcome, that's where the aggressiveness kicks in.
Exactly.
And
who's better than who?
Yeah, and all your energy's going on the outcome, not on actually the performance. So if you're always focused on the outcome, your development is not as rapid. Whereas you focus on the performance, there's no end to how good you can get.
Yeah, exactly. It's like society's telling me 5 a day is really good.
Yep.
When there's guys that did 40 in a day, and it's like, I didn't even know that. Like, you know what I mean?
That was possible, yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's an interesting principle of mindset, because there's a guy just recently that, my best week, I was #1 at alarms at Vivint, and my best week was 29. Mm-hmm. This guy just went into 207 in a week.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm good.
Just blew it out of the water.
You take the top 5 guys, if I could pick my dream team, we still don't beat them together.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
Like,
that's amazing.
And I think it goes to the principle, and it's just been mind-boggling to me. I'm like, that's not possible, right? And I want to throw darts, but it comes back to mindset. For him, he was assertive.
Yep.
He wasn't passive. He wasn't aggressive. It wasn't like me versus the #1 guy here. It was me versus me.
Yep.
And that's
He's just competing. Yeah.
He's just competing himself.
Yeah. So previous performance accomplishments 1, vicarious 2. Third is your verbal persuasion, which is your tone. Can you see assertiveness is tone? When you're passive, what's your tone in your head like? It's weak, right?
Yeah.
When you're aggressive, it's just raw energy. Your tone in your head needs to be strong so you own this space. That's that verbal persuasion, meaning will. Sometimes you got to will yourself to higher levels. What we tend to do when things don't go well, sometimes we overthink things and we overanalyze things, and that's where the overthinking, which I really believe professionally, overthinking is one of the banes of our society right now. We as a human race overthink things.
And it's because we have so much access to information.
So much stimuli coming at us all the time.
Yeah, it's like we're overstimulated.
Yeah. And we still got to think, we're just overthinking. And so that verbal persuasion is, no, I'm doing it now. I got this. And you're just literally willing yourself through things.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is this world, we live in a distracted world.
Yes.
And it's like, and with an ADD job, all of us being ADD door knocking salespeople, is, I think a lot of times we fail to act, we fail to decide, we fail to move.
We get indecisive.
We get indecisive. And I watch that over and over again. And it's like, just go. Just put your head down. Go.
Yep. Do what the Nike man says. Just do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what if I said it wrong? It's like, who cares?
Yep.
Go. Like,
see that? What if I say it wrong? That's that passive overthinking.
That's also the negative. That's the negative.
That's the negative feedback.
What do you call it? Negative, subtractive,
subtractive feedback loop.
Yeah. So anything else? So I know we're running out of time, but
one more thing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Is physiological states that builds confidence,
and that's the Tony Robbins stuff.
Yeah, that's body language. Yeah, it's the swagger. You got to have the right swagger. You got to have that assertive swagger.
Do you do anything crazy like physiology to shift that?
Just got to make sure you got to be super aware of your posture. You think passive people, what happens? The second you can see it, as soon as they get passive, one passive thought, shoulders down. Arrogant people literally look down their nose. Have you ever noticed that? Yeah. Aggressive people are in your space. Assertive people, what's their body language? Tall, straight, smooth. They walk at a nice pace. You can see it on their body language, their handshake, their eye contact. It's assertive, all of that.
So it's being present around what is my body language telling me right now.
Yeah, I'm just controlling that. Yep.
So do you have any hacks that you have found? Just like do this, like that you would recommend?
I would write down, be assertive, get a dry erase marker, write it down on your mirror, be assertive. Just the words be assertive are strong. Then I would say firm tone of voice, and I would say strong body language. Those are 3 applications to it.
Cool.
Those 3.
And then all of a sudden confidence will just start to build.
Yeah.
Because you're practicing it. You're intentional about it.
And see, that's the key is we've got to practice it. You've got to practice it. Because if I tell you what it is too much, now what mindset are you in?
I'm in reactive. I'm passive.
Yep,
I'm using
passive
my neuro connections is yours, not mine.
And that's one of the biggest things I say. Write down, be assertive on your wall somewhere, and go and figure out what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Be assertive with yourself and figure out how it is. And then I need them to come back a few times just to be able to really get them to understand and articulate what it looks like for them. It's unbelievable when we get confidence down though. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Teams have been working with just crushing it. Business companies, singers, musicians just crush it when they're truly assertive. Because when you're assertive, it literally gets rid of thoughts of approval. It's just your thoughts. So now what happens to the strategic tactical plans you put in place?
Yeah,
they're yours.
They're yours.
Yeah.
You're in flow.
You're in flow all the time, always having a plan, always solving problems.
Versus like, is this plan going to work? Like, what do you think? Like,
yeah. You're just always putting plans in place, and if it doesn't work, you just come up with another plan.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I honestly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks,
this has been
great.
very. I just get a lot of energy. I'm like, we could go on for hours, man. I know you got other calls to make, but I'm excited to obviously have you at Door Con. That'll be fun. I mean, there's only 10 main stage spots, and you're one of those.
Thanks.
I mean, we're stoked. Yeah. And then, for those that are listening or catching this, thefearlessmind.com. That's where they can get your book. I love his book, by the way. Go get it. Very recommended. And then the last question I ask every single person is just you can have a short, simple answer. But if you had to give the advice to the door-to-door industry, and it's interesting coming from you outside of that industry, but you've worked with them.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
What piece of advice would you give them?
Okay, so other than being assertive, you got to do your research. Which means get a journal and at the end of each day, write down the 3 things that worked for you, the previous performance. If you're writing down 3 things that worked for you, you're doing your research, you're going to figure it out super fast.
Yeah, because you're more intentional about learning and you're in the growth mindset.
Yeah, you're increasing your intelligence around your field of expertise.
It's additive thoughts.
Yep.
And it's doing it.
Learning what works, not what doesn't work.
I love that.
It's so fast if you do that. And also when you do that, you're seeing your successes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.